Are there any common mistakes applicants make during the application or the interview process? If any of our panelists want to jump in on this one.
I think what picking up from the points that have already been made is acting like you know it when you don't know it, and it's okay to say you don't know. It's better that than blag it. Because obviously one of the advantages of being a barrister is that you're often very good at reading people and you can tell when someone isn't being honest, because you're used to cross-examining people and seeing sort of witness demeanour frequently, and therefore it's quite obvious when someone is squirming and very uncomfortable that actually they don't know, and so you're best just saying you don't know as opposed to continuing on a course that everybody can see is awkward and uncomfortable. So yeah, I think going back to the point made previously about being your sort of authentic self, I think that's really important, and accepting that you don't know.
I'm happy to jump in there. My advice would be that the common mistakes are when people tell the panel how great they are at advocacy instead of showing them. So my biggest advice would be to make sure that you show them rather than just tell them. Everything that you say must be backed up with evidence. Because it's all well and good you telling us how great you are at everything, but it needs to be supported. And that's the same in court. Is often when you make a statement in court, it has to be supported and backed up with evidence. So make sure that your applications and your answers in interview are the same. So often using things like the STAR method or the rule of three means that then you make sure that you're backing it up with evidence.
Brilliant advice there. Anyone else got anything to add on this question?
Just one from me. I have conducted interviews for pupillage applications, and one of the ones that I recall for the wrong reasons was one where somebody said about how great my chambers was in insurance law. We don't do insurance. Where's he got that from? So one mistake that applicants make in the interview process is getting their chambers mixed up. So please do your research before you go into that interview, knowing precisely why you're applying to that chambers, obviously, but also what they do.
Brilliant advice.
John, if I can piggyback off that,
Yeah,
again, it goes back to the research aspect of I've done recruitment ever since I started as a tenant, and when I get that batch of say 15 applications to review, and I get one that really overemphasizes an area of law which is perhaps a teeny tiny part of our chambers, or possibly even not from our chambers, it immediately goes to the side. So it's making sure that it makes sense to want to look at a chambers that does an area of law, but you have to really put it in the wider context of the chambers. How much is this their main areas? How much am I, ignoring perhaps what else they might be doing? So you have to really, when you're pitching it to a chambers, make sure that you're not putting them off by ignoring what they consider to be the heart of perhaps their practice. But of course, I'm sure they'll be pleased to hear about the smaller parts as well, but it can't be your main focus.
Yeah, excellent advice there.
Just going to give one very small piece of advice, which is in interviews, when you're asked a question that perhaps you hadn't anticipated and it might be a bit of a curveball or slightly unusual, don't hesitate to take a moment to think of your answer, because it's far better to just take that time just to think about what you're about to say rather than immediately enter into a lot of waffle that you haven't necessarily thought through well. You won't be criticised by an interview panel for just taking that time to think through your answer before embarking upon it. So just allow yourself that moment of thought.
Excellent.